You don't need to compete with 1,000 other women. You don't need to be the youngest. You don't need to be the prettiest. And you certainly don't need to beg for his attention, because after 50, your power doesn't lie in chasing. It lies in something far rarer, something that can't be copied, bought, or faked. It lies in presence. Imagine this: a man surrounded by choices, texts, flirting, voices pulling at his attention like dozens of glowing lights. And yet, in the middle of all that noise, he keeps thinking about you. Not because you're louder, not because you try harder, but because something in your energy pulls him. This is not a trick. It's not a game. It's something deeply psychological, something Carl Jung understood about human nature better than anyone else. You see, Jung believed that beneath all the masks people wear, beneath the ego, the noise, the temporary thrills, what humans crave is psychological gravity. They crave the person who makes them feel something they can't get anywhere else. And when a woman, especially a woman over 50, learns how to activate this power, no number of options can compete with the way she stays in a man's mind. Why? Because youth may shine, but depth echoes. And depth is something you've earned, and not by chance, but by living, by hurting, by loving, by rebuilding. A woman over 50 who understands herself isn't just another name in his contacts. She becomes a frequency his unconscious can't ignore. Most people believe that in love, the loudest voice wins. But the truth is, the quietest pull is what stays. He might flirt with others. He might explore options. He might even convince himself he's moved on. But something strange happens when he encounters a woman who stands in quiet power. A woman who doesn't chase. A woman who doesn't perform. A woman who knows who she is and isn't afraid of silence. She doesn't fight for his attention. She makes him give it freely. Jung taught that our unconscious is drawn not to what's convenient, but to what feels real, and authenticity, when paired with quiet confidence, is irresistible. Think about it. He can have 1,000 options, but how many of them truly see him? How many of them make him feel safe and alive at the same time? How many of them hold the kind of energy that lingers when the conversation ends? When you embody this kind of presence after 50, you stop being just a choice. You become a gravity. And gravity doesn't need to chase anything. Everything comes back to it. Here's the part no one tells you. Most men don't fall for the loudest woman in the room. They fall for the one they can't shake off when they're alone at night. It's the quiet, centered energy that keeps echoing in their unconscious long after the crowd has faded. You see, love isn't a competition. It's resonance. When you try to prove yourself, you step into the ring with everyone else. But when you stand still, when your energy says, "I know my worth," he doesn't see you as an option. He feels you as a pull. This is where psychological power becomes emotional magnetism. A woman in her 20s can dazzle. A woman in her 30s can impress. But a woman after 50 is when she knows herself deeply, can haunt a man's thoughts without saying a word. And haunting isn't about manipulation, it's about truth. Jung's shadow psychology explains why certain people stay with us even when life moves on. It's not just memory. It's not even just love. It's an imprint. When two people share real emotional connection, they don't just leave each other. They leave a mark on each other's unconscious. That mark doesn't fade, it waits, it lingers. And when a man is surrounded by endless options, what he's truly looking for, often without realizing, it is the woman who carries that imprint. The woman who doesn't chase, the woman who doesn't crumble, the woman whose energy is steady. That steadiness is magnetic, because in a world full of noise she becomes silence, and silence is where his heart starts to listen. So if you've ever felt like you're too old to be chosen, remember this: youth gives sparks, but depth builds fire. And fire doesn't need to compete with sparks. It simply burns. When you do this one thing, and when you embody your power instead of proving it, something powerful shifts. He begins to notice you differently. While others may glitter for a moment, your presence becomes the thread he can't untangle from his mind. He might try. He might distract himself. He might convince himself he's fine, but his unconscious doesn't lie. He will start to feel that strange, quiet pull toward you. He'll think about you at odd hours. He'll compare others to you without realizing it. He'll start to wonder why the world feels a little less alive without your presence in it. This isn't about making him obsessed through games. This is about understanding human psychology. At its core, Jung taught that every man carries an inner image of the woman who makes him feel most whole. And when your presence mirrors that image, no amount of surface-level attention can compete. It's not about looks. It's not about youth. It's about the emotional imprint you leave behind. And when a woman over 50 learns how to trust that imprint, not chase it, not force it, just trust it, everything changes. He can have 1,000 options, but he'll keep feeling the one woman who isn't trying to win him, because real power doesn't chase. It calls, and a man's soul will always follow the call that makes him feel seen. Here's the truth no one likes to say out loud. Man doesn't always choose the woman who gives him the most attention. He chooses the woman whose absence he can still feel in his bones. That is the quiet, psychological advantage a woman after 50 has, if she knows how to use it. When you stop chasing, performing, or proving yourself, you tap into something far more powerful than surface attraction. You awaken his unconscious attachment. Carl Jung believed that every human being carries an inner image of love, something he called the anima in men. This is not just a preference. It's a psychological imprint formed through childhood experiences, early romantic encounters, and deep emotional connections. When a man meets a woman who embodies this inner image, consciously or unconsciously, he feels something magnetic. And here's the thing. Once this emotional imprint is made, it's almost impossible to erase. This is why some men can date dozens of women, but keep circling back to that one woman in their mind. She represents something to them that goes beyond logic, beyond appearances, beyond competition. That something is the emotional mirror of their soul. You, as a woman over 50, don't have to compete with younger, louder or more obvious distractions, because what he's really drawn to, what he will ultimately choose, is emotional resonance, not noise. When you learn to step back into your quiet power, you activate that imprint, not by begging for it, not by reminding him of who you were, but by becoming it fully. The energy he once felt safe with, alive with, or deeply challenged by. Most people don't realize how the unconscious works. A man may think he's making a rational decision when choosing a partner, but his unconscious is making that decision long before his conscious mind catches up. It's not the woman who texts the most or fights the hardest, it's the woman whose energy feels inevitable. This is why silence, when rooted in strength, is not weakness. It's strategy, because silence leaves space for his unconscious to remember. When a woman pulls back, not out of fear, but out of quiet certainty, something begins to happen inside him. At first he may not notice. His world is loud. He has options. He's distracted, but slowly, the absence begins to echo, because the unconscious is like a river beneath everything else, and when he no longer feels your presence rushing toward him, the current of his own psyche starts to pull him back, toward where it once felt whole. That's when the late-night thoughts start, the unexpected memories, the sudden sense of something missing, not because you're saying anything, but because you're not. Your silence becomes louder than anyone else's noise, and it's at this moment, when you're no longer chasing, that he begins to feel something rare, the difference between attention and connection. Attention can be bought. Connection cannot. You see, most of the women who surround him may offer him flattery, excitement, or novelty, but few of them touch the core of who he is. Few of them reach his shadow, that hidden, secret part of himself that Jung believed lives beneath every man's carefully crafted mask. The shadow is where his fears, longings, insecurities, and deepest desires live. And the woman who has shared real emotional intimacy with him is the one who lives inside that shadow. She's the one his unconscious keeps coming back to. She's the one who saw him not just as who he pretended to be, but as who he really was. And once that kind of woman steps back into her power, when she stops trying to be remembered and simply is unforgettable, the game shifts entirely. While other women are fighting to be seen, she is simply felt. It's not about playing hard to get. It's about being anchored. Anchored in your worth. Anchored in your emotional sovereignty. Anchored in the deep knowing that you are not replaceable because your connection wasn't built on surface attraction. Here's the psychological mechanism at play. When he senses your absence, his unconscious registers it as a loss of safety. Not because he needs rescuing, but because in your presence he once found a part of himself he can't replicate with anyone else. He might try to distract himself with others. He might chase novelty, but the unconscious will keep tugging at him. Because while other connections may be fun or stimulating, yours is rooted in depth, and depth has gravity. Jung often spoke of individuation, the process of becoming whole. For many men, their attraction to a particular woman isn't just about love. It's about their own journey toward wholeness. The woman they truly choose is the one who mirrors their soul back to them, and you, with your emotional maturity, your clarity, your lived strength, are that mirror. That's why one right move after 50 is more powerful than 1,000 performances by others, because it's not about being better, it's about being real. When you choose stillness over chasing, silence over pleading, presence over performance, you become that rare anchor in a storm of temporary thrills. And the thing about anchors is, no matter how far the ship drifts, it eventually feels the pull to return. That pull isn't logical. It's not a conscious decision, it's instinctive, a whisper in his chest, a weight in his gut, a soft voice that says, "This is where it felt real." And that's why, even if he has 1,000 options, and he'll always feel that pull toward the one woman who isn't trying to win him, the one who already carries him inside her silence, the one whose energy he can't forget, because attention fades, looks fade, excitement fades, but emotional imprint is timeless, and a woman who understands that becomes unforgettable. But here's the hidden truth that most women never realize. When a man is surrounded by endless options, he's not actually choosing anyone. He's escaping something inside himself. The illusion of abundance blinds him, but it doesn't fulfill him. And that's exactly where your real power begins, because at 50 and beyond, you no longer play the same game. You don't beg for his attention. You don't fight for his love like a prize to be won. You become the mirror that reflects back the emptiness of all those shallow options he clings to. And this, as Carl Jung taught through his work on the unconscious and projection, is where obsession begins, not because you chase, but because you stand still with quiet power. He may not say it out loud, but a man feels it when a woman stops trying to convince him. When you reach that deep, grounded energy, the kind that comes not from desperation but from self-knowledge, something in his psyche shifts. You're no longer just one of many. You become the anchor he didn't know he was searching for. Most women don't understand this shift. They think being chosen means doing more, proving more, pleasing more. But men don't fall deeply for the woman who gives them everything. They fall for the woman who awakens something in them they can't explain. That mystery, that quiet pull they can't shake off, it's psychological gravity, and after 50, you hold it naturally, if you dare to trust it. Think about it. At this stage of your life, you've survived heartbreaks, betrayals, disappointments, and seasons where silence felt louder than love. You've walked through storms that would have broken a younger woman, and because of that, your energy is different. You don't crave attention. You command it without saying a word. That's the paradox of feminine power after 50. The less you seek, the more you attract. And here's where the psychology gets fascinating. Jung believed that every man carries a hidden image of the feminine inside him, what he called the anima. For years, this image shapes how he loves, what he's drawn to, and what he runs from. Most men spend their lives chasing versions of this image in different women, never realizing they're not looking for a person. They're looking for a feeling, a soul mirror, a sense of home they can't name. When you stop trying to fit into his fantasy and simply embody your truth, you reflect back the piece of his unconscious he's been chasing, and that's when the other options lose their shine. Youthful beauty might catch a man's eye, but depth, that quiet, soul-level energy, captures something far more dangerous: his attachment. So, what does "do this once" really mean? It doesn't mean a grand gesture. It's not manipulation. It's not pretending to be someone you're not. It's a subtle shift, a single soul-level decision to stop performing for love and start radiating your power without apology. It's the moment you realize that you are not in competition with anyone. Because real magnetism doesn't compete. It pulls. Imagine this. He's with someone else, maybe younger, maybe seemingly perfect. But late at night, when the noise fades and the world quiets, he'll start to feel something missing. Not because of what you said, not because of what you did, but because of what your energy left behind in his psyche. It lingers, it whispers, it reminds him of something real, something irreplaceable. And that's the part that terrifies most men, realizing that love isn't always loud. Sometimes it's the quiet presence that they took for granted. And once they lose it, it begins to haunt them. The secret isn't to chase. The secret is to become unforgettable in the language his unconscious speaks. Your stillness becomes louder than words. Your boundaries become more seductive than neediness. Your silence starts living rent-free in his mind. He might go out, talk to others, build connections, but the moment he senses real depth again, the kind you naturally carry, it won't feel the same. That's the real reason why after 50, a woman who stands in her power can outshine 1,000 options. Not because she tries harder, but because she doesn't have to. Now, let me ask you something. Have you ever noticed that the moment you stop caring whether he chooses you or not, his energy suddenly shifts? He starts showing up more. He remembers the smallest things. He begins to chase. That's not magic, that's psychology. It's the moment your energy pulls away from his ego and hits his unconscious. Jung taught that what is repressed doesn't disappear. It grows stronger beneath the surface. And when a man realizes that your love was not a given but a gift, his psyche begins to hunger for what it lost. It's not your presence that makes him obsessed. It's the absence of your need. This is the kind of power that only comes with time, with scars, with a heart that has learned not to bend for crumbs. And at 50 and beyond, you hold this power more naturally than you may realize. You don't have to play games. You just have to know how to stand in your worth. So, when I say, do this once and he'll choose you, I'm not talking about some secret trick. I'm talking about the moment you step into your quiet, radiant authority. When you stop trying to prove and start allowing him to feel the loss of your energy, that's when everything changes. Because deep down, men may enjoy the thrill of options, but they commit to gravity. They anchor to the woman who doesn't flinch, who doesn't scramble for scraps of attention, who stands as a mirror to everything they secretly crave but can't name. And if you're over 50, here's the truth they don't want you to realize. You've already become that mirror. You've lived enough to carry both light and shadow. You've learned to love and to let go. And that makes you the most dangerous kind of woman in a man's world. Not because you need him, but because you don't. He will feel it. Maybe not immediately, but slowly like a storm he can't predict. Your energy won't leave quietly, it will echo. And in a world full of noise, it's your silence that will call him home.